Today, we're going to be talking about the 2v8 mode. I know we're breaking new grounds on this one, uncharted territory some may say, but it's been out for a bit and I've been playing it most days, so I feel I've got a good grasp on the mode as a whole, so I feel comfortable talking about it. I think overall it's been a pretty big success, and I do believe it will become permanent, but there are some glaring issues that I'd like to discuss. Let's start with the elephant in the room, the queue times. In fact, just for a little fun, let's queue up for a match of Killer during this video and see which ends first. The queue on my video. On Killer they are shocking, but really that's not surprising at all. A lot of people are claiming it's because Killer is too fun, but I don't think that's the reason. I believe the problem is that Survivor just isn't all that fun, rather than Killer being too fun. I said this in a previous video before the mode even came out, but they've taken away a lot of the mechanics from Survivor that most people enjoy and replaced them with absolutely nothing, while Killer got a fundamental change in its gameplay. It really doesn't take Stephen Hawking to understand why one side is going to be enjoyed way more than the other side, since Survivor just plays identical here, but with less variety. Let's go into this a little more. The main gameplay variable normally on Survivor is the killer you're playing against, and how that killer is going to change up how you play the round. Unlike other ASIM games such as Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Killer Clowns and Friday the 13th, there's only one way to escape in Dead by Daylight, and that's finishing the generators. This means every single match without fail, you're going to be doing the exact same thing at some point if you want to escape, which is holding left click staring at a bar. So the variables that do change are what tries to keep Survivor fun, these being the killer, the perks the killer is running, and the perks you are running. These are the big ones, and they simply just don't change in 2v8. I've seen a lot of complaints that every match is hundreds. Who could have predicted such an outcome? Now I don't know about you guys, but I have a pretty strong feeling I know which of the killers are going to be played every single match. When you only have the original 5 killers to choose from, it's obvious that every match is going to have the most fun killer to choose from of that list, especially when the other killers most people would play got hard nerfed into the ground for some reason.
So basically, what I was thinking of was, oh fuck, I can't believe you've done this.
So there goes the variety variable of the killer. Not only this, but you know the killers will be playing in the same way because there is no add-ons and no perks for them. So there's only really 2 main gameplay changes that they can do, and that's whether the killers will be running as a duo or running on their own. We'll get onto this one a little later. Next we have the perks you're running. Well, there are no perks. Only classes, and of those classes, only one of them is actually engaging to run as a solo player. It's also the most popular, because obviously if you stick the most popular perk in the game, alongside the most broken version of a previous perk, alongside one of the most popular exhausted perks that was actually buffed in the game together in one class, that's going to be the most used one. The other 3 classes are great at helping you win matches, but they aren't engaging to use, so it almost feels like you're running perkless when you're running any of the other classes that aren't Chaser. There is one exception, and that's people who enjoy the Warlock class and kind of use it like old object of obsession, highlighting the killers for the entire team, which I know some people probably do enjoy a lot, but I rarely see it happen. All these things together combine to make the gameplay very repetitive after a while for Survivor, which will improve with further iterations of this mode when they introduce more killers, but it still doesn't change the fact that a lot of mechanics people enjoy from Survivor have been gutted. More variety in classes would substantially help this feeling of repetitiveness. Also, maybe don't stack one class to their tits with extremely fun perks, while having all the other ones be passive. Next we have the balance, which is a very interesting topic. Before someone complains about it being the fun me mode, so why do people care about balance? There's only so long people will be willing to be curb stomped before they end up just getting bored of any mode, and it's almost certainly going to become a permanent mode, and the longer something is out, the sweaty people will play it, so it's better to try and get ahead of the balance early rather than waiting for later. It's Survivor sided, massively Survivor sided, so Survivor sided in fact that it almost gets boring because you're going to matches knowing you're probably going to win. For context, I can count my Survivor losses on one hand out of my 30 plus matches playing as Survivor. There are countless reasons why it's very Survivor sided. For starters, there are 2 less gens to complete, which is not offset by the lack of needing to hook, which a lot of people seem to think it is. The gen class lets you power through gens insanely quickly and gives you wall hacks to your team on what gen you're on, essentially giving a team-wide deja vu style perk. Chaser was old made for this, which makes looping solo killers insanely easy on the regular loops on the regular maps, which is why it was nerfed in the first place, and Behavior's map design team are back at it again, with some of the most broken loops in the game. Seriously, so many of these loops are so insanely safe that it's literally impossible to get the hit on a passable Survivors. I run killers for minutes with very little effort in this mode because of how insanely easy it is to chain really strong tiles together, and I'm not a very good Survivor. This leads to the issue I was alluding to earlier. I believe Behavior thought because you can chase together as killer, they needed to buff the tiles to make them harder for killer. This fundamentally does not work, because it doesn't matter how broken you make the tile, 2 half-passable killers are always going to get the hit. So all this change has done is force killers to run as a duo if they actually want to catch people without losing 50% of their gens, unless of course they're playing the nurse. Remember, running a single killer for a minute means that's 1 minute where the other killer needs to pressure 7 separate Survivors. It's just not realistically going to happen. One of 4 things are going going to happen. You're going to play against a killer who is running on their own, and you're going to source them for 1 to 2 minutes on broken tiles we've made for this, or they run together and you die in 10 seconds. Neither of these are particularly fun or rewarding, because against a single player, you don't really need to do much to loop well, and you never feel like you're really in danger, or it becomes like John Wick when the 2 people are chasing after you. Anna.
We'll come for you. You will do nothing because you can do nothing.
Ages, yes, this is the 2v8 mode. It is a little bit different from the normal mode. As you can see, there are 8 survivors. So instead of hooking people, sheesh, there you go, fuck me.
The other scenarios are that you are bad at Survivor and you're unable to run the killer for longer than 10 seconds even on these busted tiles. Or you get 2 really bad killers and you're able to run both of them for a decent amount of time. Which leads me on to my final point, the lack of MMR. I think the lack of MMR really has distorted people's views on just how balanced or unbalanced this mode really is, considering they decided to drop a free weekend at the same time, which means there were literally brand new players littering the lobbies. I've seen people complaining about how they've played 30 matches of Survivors and died in every single one. I'm sorry, but if you're dying 30 matches in a row with these loops and you're complaining that the game is killer-sided, at that point you're just self-reporting how bad you are. One decent chase from you and the match is basically over for the killers. The sheer amount of people I see when I'm playing Survivors who just aren't touching generators is staggering, and it's a far cry from the efficiency that I see normally in 1v4. In fact, in my first ever match of this mode before the free weekend drop, my Survivor was filled with a bunch of competent players, and we managed to do every single gen in about 3 minutes. We weren't even tryharding it, we weren't even queued up together, it was just 8 solo players who knew how to play the game, and we managed to slam through every gen before the killers even had the chance to blink. The only thing that is making this mode even close to balance right now is the complete lack of skill-based matchmaking, and it is very obvious when one side has more experienced players than the other. I know a lot of people crucify me about my opinion on the lack of skill-based matchmaking, but it really isn't that fun to just dunk on new players who are obviously worse at the game than you non-stop on really broken loops. I like to feel challenged when I play a game, otherwise the game loses a lot of the tension, and these incredibly safe loops versus bad killers just doesn't really offer that. It's why I really like to play against Trapper in this mode, because you also need to look out for traps while you're looping the killers, which even if they are bad, actually adds some risk to the loops. So overall, there's a lot of stuff they need to work out, and whether behaviour will actually manage to do it or not is anybody's guess. Mine's probably not, given how bad their balancing decisions have been in the base mode, but I will especially be looking forward to when more killers are added and hopefully more classes get added, just to add a bit more variety to the gameplay. I know I've just been shitting on the mode for the past 7 minutes, but it really can be fun. Hopefully behaviour makes some changes to improve the gameplay for both sides so they're equally fun and equally balanced, and also so the queues are actually tolerable. Speaking of queues, let's see how our killer queue is going on, shall we? Oh dear, we're still in it. I rest my case. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and I hope you have a great day. Bye for now, gamers.